Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. I've got a couple of fun recipes to share with you today. Today's video is part of an open collab. I'm gonna make sure I get it right. Fall in Love with Food is the name of the collab, and it is hosted by Tiffany from Small Town 6. And we're supposed to share some of our favorite fall recipes, whether from our childhood or just currently or whatever. And so the first thing I'm gonna share with you is a corn dish that I made, and we like to have this for Thanksgiving. Not every year, it kind of depends on who and where we are having Thanksgiving. I am making it this year, and I made a much smaller batch for us because it was just my husband and I didn't want to eat it like all week. So I cut it just like in fourths or whatever, but I'll have the original recipe linked for you. We are gonna go to that. I did make that a part of a meal, and the whole meal was really good, but the corn dish is the favorite food. So let's go back to last night and I will show that to you. All right, so first I'm just gonna show you what I'm doing with my chicken, which isn't anything major. I have 3 pretty small and partially frozen chicken breasts. They were not fully thawed at all. I just have them in a grease baking dish, and I'm going to cover them with foil and put them in the oven at 400 degrees for 20 minutes to start. While that chicken is going, we are going to get started on our corn dish. Now I am making it a little bit different than the recipe says. One, I am making a lot less because I was just making this for dinner for my husband and I didn't want to have a ton of leftovers. So for most people, I would say make the original recipe, and for Thanksgiving, I'm going to be making the original recipe times 2. So I'm not going to give you all of the measurements here because it's so little. But the original recipe would call you to pan fry some bacon. I'm not doing that. And then adding in a little bit of butter once the bacon is done and removed, or you can just use the bacon grease, and you're going to saute an onion. I have used onion in this dish, and although I do like cooked onion in dishes, I prefer this particular one without it, so go with what you want. So what I started with was some butter, melted the butter, put in some softened cream cheese, a little bit at a time, mixing that around until that was fully creamy and melted and incorporated. Now I'm adding in some Parmesan and Romano cheese. The recipe just calls for Parmesan, but this is what I had on hand, and I didn't feel like grating up any Parmesan today, so that's what I used. And then you're going to crumble up some bacon, or this time I'm just cheating with these little bacon pieces and putting that in, and we're going to mix that all together. Once again, I think for Thanksgiving, I'm going to use real bacon, and I'm going to probably prepare most of this actually in the slow cooker for Thanksgiving, so that is definitely an option. And now I'm just adding in some drained canned corn and mixing this all together. Once again, I will have the recipe linked down below for you. I definitely recommend this. It has become a favorite, a go-to. It's definitely a little bit more indulgent, but that is perfect for the holidays. So I've got my my greased baking dish, and this is like a super thin layer because I made so little. So I'm definitely not gonna have to put this in the oven as much as you would if you were making a normal amount. But I had that spread out, and then I sprinkled on some more Parmesan cheese, and then I'm drizzling with olive oil, or you can use butter, and we're gonna put this in the oven for the remainder of time of the chicken. But now I've got the chicken, first 20 minutes is done, and I'm going to season it with some Herbamare, which is a seasoned salt, some onion powder, and garlic powder, and then we're going to flip them over, season the other side, and put it back in the oven for uncovered for the rest of the time. So we're going to put the chicken and the corn dish in for another 15 minutes or until your chicken is cooked through. Again, normally you'd probably need to put the corn dish in for more like 30 minutes, but it's a very little amount. So that's all we're going to do for this. And while that is going, we are going to make ourselves some rice. I am just doing some brown rice, and I am using chicken broth just to give it a little added flavor. And then I'm also going to add in some more of that Herbamare just to season it up really good. And then I wanted to make some gravy, and I did not have any packets or like chicken drippings or whatever, so I'm making a slurry. I will include a recipe for this if you want. I'll include the link that I used kind of as a reference. But it was a 1/4 cup of water and 3 tablespoons of flour that I whisked together until totally smooth. And then I'm adding in 2 cups of chicken broth, getting that warmed up, and then I'm going to add in some onion powder and mix that all together. And then we're going to add in the slurry, and then you can continue. If it's not thick enough, make a little bit more of a slurry. This was not an overly flavored gravy. You could definitely salt it and maybe even add some garlic powder if you wanted, but everything else in this dish was so seasoned that this gravy just added a nice like warmth and creaminess, and it didn't need a ton of flavor. So this was our dinner, but the corn dish was definitely the star of the show. I highly recommend this. You can also top with some more bacon. I just kind of forgot, but definitely always a good option. All right, so now we're back to present day, and I have a really fun recipe that I've been wanting to make that I decided I would just throw in here. It's a fall food. It's not yet a favorite, but I have a feeling it's going to be a favorite because it sounds amazing. So I figured I would just throw that in here with this video as well. It is a cinnamon apple bread, and I've got some apples that need to be used up, and I've had this recipe pinned for a while. So let's make it and find out if it is a new favorite fall food. I'm gonna start by preparing my bread pan, and I am just going to spray it and flour it. I am using a coconut oil spray, but you know, you can do whatever you want there. Don't forget to check out Tiffany's channel along with the playlist for lots of yummy recipes. All right, so I will have the original recipe linked for you below, but I am going to adapt it based on the comments. So it gets really good reviews, but it sounds like it could use a little bit more apple, which will also mean a little bit more brown sugar and cinnamon. So the recipe calls for 1/2 cup of brown sugar and 1.5 teaspoons of ground cinnamon and 1 apple. So I'm gonna do more, and we'll figure, you know, I don't know. That was probably like 3/4 cup of brown sugar, and my cinnamon. Just gonna put that in there. I don't know how much that was. We're gonna say that was about 1/2 teaspoon. So I'm gonna probably do, it's 1, so 1.5 would be what it calls for. I'm gonna do an extra rounded teaspoon. So then we're just gonna mix this together and set that aside. All right, so now I've got a 1 stick or 1/2 cup of unsalted butter softened, and we're going to add in 2/3 cup of white sugar, and I'm just going to mix that until it is well combined. Okay, now we're gonna add in 2 eggs. That was a close one with a shell. I busted that open weird, but no shell got in. We are safe. Now we're adding in 2 teaspoons of vanilla. We're gonna mix that together. Now we're gonna add in 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder and 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. I feel like I'm using up a lot of like the remaining ingredients today. I do have more flour, but don't have much in this container. I'm trying to not waste it, so I'm just gonna do that right over there. I'm sorry, that's a 1/2. I'm gonna mix that together. And we're gonna add in 1/2 cup of milk. I'm using almond milk. I don't think that's gonna be a problem. All right, we're gonna pour 1/2 of the batter into our prepared pan. Smooth that out. All right, now we're gonna put 1/2 of our chopped apples. I only chopped 1/2 of them because I didn't have room on this little cutting board that I'm using. You wanna peel and chop them up into pretty small pieces. It says to pat the apples into the batter with the back of a spoon. I'm just gonna use my hands. You just wanna kinda get it in there. You're gonna sprinkle it with 1/2 of this brown sugar and cinnamon mixture. And according to some of the reviews, everyone said it was really good, but there was a few people who said, oh, I could have used a little bit more apple and a little bit of this mixture. So I was like, you know what, we're just gonna do it. I mean, it's not gonna make it bad, that's for sure. And then we're going to repeat the layers. We're gonna put the rest of the batter. I'm gonna chop up the rest of the apples, put them in, and then the rest of the brown sugar and cinnamon topping. This final layer of topping, you just want to make sure that you pat that into the batter because you don't want it to just all like fall off. And I ended up doing about 2 apples. Some people suggested even up to 3. So I say, you know, let that part go with whatever feels good to you. And then we are gonna put this in the oven at 350 for 50 minutes or until, you know, toothpick comes out clean. So I'm gonna get this going in the oven. All right, well, it is smelling amazing. Let's see if it's done. Yeah, that's just cinnamon and brown sugar. I'm gonna let this cool for 10 minutes before I attempt to take it out of the pan. Look at that. So good. So I gave the bread a try and it's really, really good. I think the reason that people were recommending to increase the amount of brown sugar and cinnamon and apples, the bread itself is not overly sweet, which isn't a bad thing. But I think without that, it would be lacking. So I would even consider next time making it, maybe making a little bit of swirling in the batter with like in each layer with some of that brown sugar and cinnamon. I definitely think I would do that next time, just for a little bit more, but it's really, really good. So I enjoyed it. I hope that you enjoy it. I hope that you give that corn dish a try. It is so good. Like, yeah. Winner, winner. Anyways, that's it for today's video. Don't forget to check out Tiffany's channel. I'll have it linked below. And thanks, Tiffany, once again for hosting this collab and allowing me to be a part of it. Also, check out the playlist down below so that you can get a whole bunch of fall favorite foods. Yeah, I think that's a good way of saying it. There's going to be lots of good recipes in those videos, so check it all out. Thanks for watching. If you're new, please consider subscribing before you leave. I would love to have you be a part of my YouTube family, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.